Hey guys, it's me Kevin and welcome back to a new AFL video, and it's a new video on my AFL expansion series, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about which team should be awarded with the Team 20th license. So, if Tasmania were to get an AFL team, and a current AFL team does not leave the comp or relocate to the Tassie state, then you're going to have to add a Team 20 with Tasmania, because you can't have a 19-team competition. The main reason is the bye, and also, if you're owning another team, you might as well add another team just to add some value to the broadcast deal. There's a few other issues like an uneven ladder, but essentially, mainly due to the bye, you have to have a Team 20 in the AFL. So there have been some bids thrown around as to which team should be Team 20, because let's face it, Tasmania is an obvious inclusion into the AFL. Team 20, not so much. There have been bids for a third team in one of the 4 expansion states. I disagree with every single one of them. I don't think any of them will work. Not even a third Perth team. I'm sorry. I'm a WA fan, okay? But I cannot see another team being added into Perth. I'm sorry. So let's scrap that out. New Zealand would never work. No one actually cares about AFL New Zealand. I mean, I guess you could send St Kilda to play a couple games there. But, yeah, it's not really going to work. And neither would a North Queensland team. I can't see that supporting a team either. So you're down to about 3 options. Northern Territory, ACT, or Ballarat. Now, ideally, if there was only about 5 or 6 teams in Victoria, I reckon Ballarat would make a decent team. But here's the thing, there's 10 teams in Victoria. So that one's actually pretty easy to solve. I'll get that to a next video. But I reckon Bulldogs should just play more games there. So that leaves Northern Territory and the ACT. Okay? A lot of people say Northern Territory should become Team 20. For the few people that don't overlook the ACT, I reckon they could make a good team as well. So it's really the argument, the commercial support versus the playing talent. If you go with the playing talent argument, it's the Northern Territory. If you go with the commercial support argument, it's the ACT. Now, no, I say commercial support because it'd probably be more, if a Canberra team were to be added, it'd probably be more successful than Gold Coast and GWS, given that they've actually got some support for the AFL in the state already. But I think Canberra should be given an AFL team ahead of the Northern Territory for one reason. There's 3 main expansion spots right now, Tassie, Northern Territory and Canberra. Okay? There's only 2 spots left. They're not going to expand to 22 teams to accommodate both. I reckon it's much easier to relocate a struggling Victorian team to the Northern Territory than it is to the ACT. Should that have to happen? Now, I will get to what team I'm referring to in the next video. I think you might already guess this. But I feel like if a Victorian team goes up to the Territory, it'd be supported a lot better than if it were to go to the ACT, because everyone would be like, nah, why do we have to support them? We could just support GWS. But you see, if Canberra are given their own team, their own brand, a Canberra brand, then that's when they'll go, yeah, all right, we'll support them over the Giants. So that is my reasoning over why Canberra should get a team over the Northern Territory. There are several beneficiaries about adding a team in Canberra. For one, the ACT is almost on the Riverina region, so the Canberra team can actually service not only the ACT, but that entire Riverina team, which would equate to about 750,000 people. Even the ACT alone hosts nearly 500,000, which is about double the size of Northern Territory, population-wise. And there's also decent support for the AFL. I mean, they've got their own state league, which is a little bit weaker than Tasmania's probably, but it's still definitely better than Sydney's. And they've got decent support. GWS, when they play in Canberra, they pull off numbers of almost as much, if not more, than what they would in Parramatta. I mean, they're getting 5-digit numbers, which is a promising sign for a team a part-time team in the state. Imagine what a full-time team would get. Imagine if a full-time Canberra team in the top 4 with a better stadium, I reckon they could get around 25,000 people and become the next Geelong, in my opinion. There are some doubts as to whether Canberra should get a team, and there are some reasons which people speak against it. But let me debunk most of those myths. There isn't enough support in Canberra. It's a rugby town. Actually, you're kind of wrong on that. It wasn't a rugby town until the AFL neglected it. during their expansion process from the VFL into the AFL, they didn't really care about Canberra, even though they were a strong AFL state for most of their history. It was in the 1980s where the AFL just forgot about it. And then the NRL were like, all right, let's expand to every state in the country, see which works and which doesn't. Now, I say every state because they also did expand to Perth and Adelaide. Those failed, but Canberra somehow passed. And that's why Canberra are now a rugby state and not an AFL state. But there is still quite a bit of support for the AFL, as I said, with GWS pulling around 12,000 people, and that's good for a part-time team. And there's also lots of Victorians moving to the ACT, which would further help boost support in the state. Another reason why people say Canberra shouldn't get a team is because it will hurt the Giants. Yeah, who cares about GWS? If they can't, they need to sort themselves out in Parramatta at some point, okay? Canberra should not be denied a team just because a Sydney-based team cannot live on their own, okay? They've got to sort themselves out. Canberra, go ahead, get your own AFL team. GWS can sort themselves out, okay? The only legitimate argument as to why they shouldn't get a team is because of participation rates. There are about 8 players in the AFL at the moment from the ACT. Okay, that's a legitimate argument. But if Canberra have their own team, then I think participation rates in the ACT would increase. And remember, there are other teams in the AFL, Gold Coast GWS, just to name a couple, that have teams filled mostly with Victorians. It's not like the old days, you play for your local club. I mean, they can fill their list up with a lot of Victorian players, and a lot of Sydney-sided players, and they should be okay to go. So, what would the club look like? Okay, so I'm thinking, because they're not only based in the ACT, but in the Riverina region, I'm thinking kind of like an outdoorsy sort of moniker. And also, given that other clubs around the area have symbols of strength, like the Canberra Raiders, the GWS Giants, I reckon they should have another tough guy moniker. So that's why I'm going with the Canberra Warriors. So yeah, that's the name I'm giving for Canberra. Yeah, and I think their Guernsey should be gold with a white sort of anchor thing like the Dockers used to have, but instead of it being shaped as an anchor, it's like a V and then a vertical line coming from the V, that sort of thing, and a black outline around it, and then their Clash Guernsey would just be black with the yellow outline, again, the white anchor. Now, as for the grounds that Canberra Warriors play on, I reckon they should be based entirely at Monica Oval. Now, when I say that, I mean that the stadium should be upgraded into a giant stadium type stadium. You know how it's just like all seated, all orange seats. I reckon, yeah, Canberra should be kind of like a giant stadium, but instead of orange seats, yellow seats. So that's what I think Monica Oval should be like, and they could brand it Warriors Stadium if they want to. And I reckon Canberra should just be based there full time. I mean, we see Carlton, they're based at a 25,000 seater stadium, so I can't see why Canberra can't do the same. They can play all their home games there. They can train there. They can play all their all their VFL games there, and they could also play all their women's games there. That's how I think it should be. Now, as I said earlier, they might want to look at maybe playing a couple games in Newcastle. That could be an option. That could also be an option for GWS. But I haven't really thought of that now. I just think for now, all games at Monica Oval. As for their sponsor, I reckon maybe a Bunnings Warehouse could probably sponsor them. I reckon they'd be they already sponsor the AFL, and I reckon they could prop up Canberra. As for the club song, I reckon they should have a new song. I've titled it We're the Mighty Fighty Warriors. It's a kind of rock pop song, kind of an upbeat song, which I think is different. I don't think there's any AFL team that currently does that. I know the Eagles had a rock song before they ditched it, but no team has one at the moment. I reckon it'd make a good change for the AFL, and it kind of like symbolises that strength of the Warrior. So in the next video, I will be talking about which team should relocate to the Northern Territory. Comment down below who you think it is and see if you guessed correctly. And I'll be talking about just how the AFL should go with secondary markets as well, not just Northern Territory, but other markets as well, kind of like the Bulldogs and Ballarat. But yeah, that'll be in my next video, which I'll be doing next week. Actually, no, my next video will be a fake ladder predictions video, but after that, it will be the one on the territory. I'll be uploading 2 next week. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, please subscribe, please comment what you think of the video down below, and your opinion on Canberra or Northern Territory getting an AFL team, or who do you think Team Toddy should be anyway. Check out some of my other videos, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.